Five, four, three, two, one. Welcome to the Mixdown.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Mixdown, the show where Adam and I answer all of life's curiosities and mysteries because we know everything and we're always right. Each week, we will spoon-feed you a 3-course meal of discussions that will tantalize your palate and hopefully keep you coming back for more. And this is the first episode in a while, so...
Deal with it.
Yes. Never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Excuse me. All right, we're going to get started. We're going to jump in with our appetizer. This is called Metalhead. I was a metalhead when I was a kid. I still am. I listen to a lot of heavy metal stuff.
Screamo?
Screamo, yeah.
Screamo.
Little different, though. This is not talking about music. Here's the headline. Firefighters cut through a metal tea kettle to free a toddler's head. On January 8th, firefighters in China responded to a family's home to extract a toddler's head from inside a metal tea kettle. The firefighters in Changsha, Hunan province, said the boy was playing with the tea kettle last week when he stuck his head inside the metal container and was unable to remove it. So the boy's grandparents summoned firefighters to their home, and the crew set about carefully cutting through the metal. Firefighters said it took half an hour to remove the kettle from the boy's head.
What is a tea kettle? Isn't that stupid little thing that whistles?
Yeah.
How do you get your head stuck in one of those?
I don't know. Unless he had an obnoxiously small head.
Like that big around?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they have different tea kettles in China.
They might have wide-mouthed tea kettles.
Let me see here. I'm going to Google tea kettle. I suppose, like, maybe one of those.
Yeah, that's kind of...
We're looking at some pictures of tea kettles. I could see you taking the top off of that one and putting it on thinking you were going to be like Johnny Appleseed or something.
Yeah, that's true. And he was little. Let's see, does it say his age? Oh, he's a toddler.
Well,
3 or 4. Huh?
Toddlers don't matter. I don't even know what that means.
So, yeah, I don't know. Have you ever had a weird injury like that?
Where your head's stuck in something?
Yeah, your head or something else?
It seems like I got my head stuck once in a chair or something. Like a chair with the
spindles?
The spindles on the back or something like that. It seems like I might have got my head stuck in one of those when I was little. I kind of have a vivid, obviously it's not real vivid, a vague memory of struggling to get my head out of one of those. Got my fingers stuck in a Chinese finger trap when I was in 4th grade. Didn't figure that out for a year. That was a hard year.
You didn't figure out how to get it out?
No, fingers stuck together for a year. Stupid Chinese finger trap.
Well, Chinese obviously have a lot of traps.
A lot of traps.
They,
Chinese kettle trap.
I think I got my head stuck in spindles on like a staircase once.
Oh.
But the thing that comes to my head is we had this stupid billy goat named Knothead. He was an idiot. All billy goats are stupid. But we had this goat.
Knothead the goat.
We had this goat named Knothead, and he had these nasty horns that were spindly and backwards, and they were nasty. Anyways, he could stick his head through the wire fence, but then when he would try to come back out, it would catch on his horns, so he couldn't get him out. And every single day for a while, we could hear him like screaming from the house, and my mom would be like, "You gotta go get his head out."
Gotta get his head out of the fence.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill this stupid thing.
It'd be easy to cut it off while it's sticking out the other side of the fence.
I know, I should have done that.
Should have macheted him.
That same goat,
Machete.
I got his head unstuck once, and he reared up, and then he got me right in the back with his horn, And I got really mad, and because I just helped him, and so then I turned my back to him and got me in the back. So I grabbed a shovel, and I broke it over his back.
Nice. Did it kill him?
No, but
Dang
he did do this weird like.
Wish you guys could have seen the visual I saw. Goats are notorious for being unappreciative of being helped.
Yeah, they're really jerks.
Goats are jerks. I shot a goat in the head once, and then we ate it. Nice. You ever eaten a goat?
I have. What kind of goat?
I don't know. It had a name.
Really? I have never eaten a goat with a name, so I'll say that.
In fact, the kid who came and saw me last week, best man at my wedding, we went down to his wedding, and they had a pet goat. And they decided that his brother's a chef, so they decided they were going to shoot it and cook it for the bachelor party or the, rehearsal dinner or something. And so they smoked it all day and, dry rubbed it and made it all fancy, and then we ate it.
Was it good?
No, it was absolutely awful. It was like eating, if you flavored sheetrock to taste like, I don't know.
Jerky?
No. I was thinking more like, I'm an old blue truck, okay?
Yeah.
I take it to the dump. It's full of trash. It's a 1979 Ford. It's been around for a long time, obviously. It's seen a lot of dust and dirt and rust and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, inside the cab of that thing is extremely dirty, and there's stuff shoved under the seat from 40 years of, kids driving it around and my dad and hunting trips and all that.
Yeah.
That goat tastes like what I imagine the underside of that pickup seat tasting like.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't give you the visual, so you knew exactly what was going on.
What was his name?
The truck? Old Blue.
No, the goat.
I don't remember, man.
James. Something.
I don't remember. I just remember them being like, "Come here, Tommy. Come here, buddy." And his dad held his head all funny. Like, what are you guys? Go bam! Like, oh my gosh, they just shot their pet goat. We're gonna eat it.
This
is Nebraska.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
All right, well, if you guys stuck through that, we're gonna get on to something
right
else
on.
now. All right. Hey, that guy took one. That little goat took one for the team.
Took one for the team. Peter, you can put that on your website. That shooting goats in the head and eating them is not a good idea because they taste bad. Maybe that'll save a few more goats. Okay.
So for the main course, we're going to talk about how practice makes perfect. Kind of. That's what I'm naming this section. But we're going to talk about practice.
Practice? We're talking about practice, man?
Oh, that's funny.
We're talking about practice. You ever seen that?
I forget what it's from, though.
Allen Iverson and all of his...
yeah.
His... I don't know if I can even use a word that jokes around about that man's intelligence. Let's see. Allen Iverson.
Hold on. What is he doing these days?
Old Allen?
Writing books, cashing checks.
Probably. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's rapping still. He had an album there once.
Oh, yeah. Him and Shaq.
Oh, my gosh. I bet that's coming through my Bluetooth speakers out there. I was trying to play this video, and I couldn't hear it. And usually when that happens, it means Emma comes walking around the corner looking at me like, something was just playing on your speakers.
She probably thinks it's you. Oh.
That I miss practice. If a coach say I miss practice, and y'all hear it, then that's that. I mean, I might have missed one practice this year, but if somebody say he doesn't come to practice, it can be one practice. Out of all the practices this year, that's enough. If I can't practice, I can't practice, man. I'm hurt, I'm hurt. I mean, simple as that. It ain't about that. I mean, it's not about that at all. You know what
Wait
I'm
for
saying?
it.
But it's easy to talk about. It's easy to sum it
Just
up.
set it up
We
nice.
just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Let me get this straight. We're talking about practice. He wasn't very happy that the media was on him about practice, which I actually kind of agree with Alan Iverson on that one. Like,
Yeah.
we're really talking about practice. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about practice. And we're not talking about, well, we can talk about basketball practice.
Yeah, you're a coach.
We can talk about all kinds of practice. What's the point?
Why do we practice?
So we teach music. We've been doing that here at the music room for quite a while. I've taught it before in my home, and my kids and other people, relatives. I taught my sister-in-law for a little while. I taught just people. Like people, when you see somebody doing something and you're like, I want to do that, you usually go to that person and say, can you teach me how to do that? In church settings, that happens all the time when you're the guitar player up front.
Right.
And there's families with kids. The families come up to you and they go, and that's how I started way back 15 years ago at my first church in Spearfish. One of the parents came and said, can you teach this kid how to play guitar? And I said, well, I guess. Like, I
Yeah.
can play it. I can communicate with words, so sure, let's try it.
Right.
And so then you begin to teach and teach and teach. And since then, that was 15 years ago, now that I think about it, that kid's long grown up and gone that doesn't play the guitar because he didn't practice. So we're talking about practice, man! We have seen it. It's not hard for any music teacher to tell you the number one stumbling block for students and their progress in music is
Lack of practice.
lack of practice. Like, this just doesn't exist. And so when we were talking about what we're going to talk about today, I'm like, well, it's kind of a fresh thing when we come off of a week of lessons. We record this, obviously, the end of our week, so we're like coming off of however many lessons we had this week, dozens and dozens of them. So we get to see inside and out when a kid walks in and either sits down at the drum set or sits down across from us in the guitar room. You can tell immediately if that kid practiced. You can tell by the body language. Like, that kid's ready to roll
Yeah.
or they're not.
Yeah.
And it sets the mood for the lesson that we're in, because if the kid sits down, you can tell, like, for me, when a kid sits down and just kind of sits there with his guitar and doesn't do anything, I'm like, this kid didn't practice. And today we're going to go over what we went over last week again. That's an expensive guitar lesson.
Yeah, it really is. Same thing. Yeah, same thing with drums. When I have a kid come in, if I can usually tell if they've practiced, because I'm usually making copies or something for the lesson, and then if they're in here like playing, then I'm like, oh, okay, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
But if they're just sitting there like don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, come on.
We've all done that. Like, I can think of I think of some meetings I was a part of in my previous employment where, like, you were responsible. You remember the scene off The Office where Michael's supposed to give the presentation on PowerPoint? Yeah. He's like, opens it on the screen, and it's like downloading PowerPoint or whatever it says. And it says, it's like a setup wizard. He hasn't even opened it yet. Like, obviously, like, well, this will take 15 minutes, I guess. And he's like pointing at people. PowerPoint. Like, I had a few of those meetings where you're like supposed to be prepared for it and have all this information ready, and you go into the room thinking you're going to wing it and realize right then that, oh my gosh, maybe I should have prepared for this.
Yeah.
In fact, one time I got asked to recap what went on the previous day during one of the I think it was like a motivational speaker, or maybe it was the president of our company. I don't really remember. They asked me to recap it, and I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, geez.
I didn't take notes, like nothing of that. So then they're like, hey, why don't you give us a recap of what that guy said yesterday? I'm like, he said, like, words. There's a lot of really good stuff. Just, like, things we can take back and really just use. And I really appreciate his heart and his, like a lot of all of a sudden I turned into a politician.
What did they say? Wait.
It was a humiliating experience. There were hundreds of people there.
I hate
It was
that.
humiliating. My friends were looking at me out of the top of their glasses. There's like, you are a knothead with your head stuck in a fence. But that feeling, like, I've been there. So a kid sits down a lot of times, and I will put their music in front of them. Mm-hmm. And you can see them starting to try to play it, but it's in the wrong, like on the guitar, if we're looking at a tab or notes or something, and they start trying to play it, but it's on the wrong strings or in the wrong frets, or like
Yeah.
they had no idea. Now they're trying to they're like, oh crap, he remembered
Right.
You remembered what we did. Like how with 37 students do you remember what each kid's doing?
Teacher zone.
Teacher zone, yeah. Their software keeps us like, okay, what was this kid doing? Real quick, go back and look. And the gosh dang kids sometimes are ready and sometimes they're not. And so we've had a lot of kids come in, a lot of kids quit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't mean to be crass about it. That's a word from Thomas the Train. Go ahead and watch it. They used crass a lot.
Really?
Because it was English or something.
That's crass, Thomas.
I don't mean to be mean about it, but a lot of kids just come in, they try it for a second, and then they just quit.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, we see that people quit not because they don't like music, but because they get into a position where they have to put some work into it, and either kids are too busy. I will let you have the benefit of the doubt on that one. Because kids are, or they just don't practice. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes frustrating. Like, what could you do in your life that you do it for a half an hour a week and become good at it?
Right. Watch YouTube.
Half an hour, not even that, right? Like half an hour a week with an instructor actually telling you.
Yeah.
So if you had a college class, picture that, where you were learning a skill. Let's say it's sewing. There's a lot of universities teaching sewing. You have a college class teaching sewing, and you go there for once a week for a half an hour. You're about 5 minutes late every time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really pay attention for the first 10 minutes. You really got about 15 minutes of instruction on how to do this really complex thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave, you put your tools in your bag, and you leave and you put them in your room under your bed or wherever. You don't touch them all week. And you come back to that class the next week, and the instructor says, now do what I taught you how to do last week. And you go, well, I can't. And they say, well, why not? Well, I didn't try to do it all week. The last thing I remember was the last word you said when I left. Like, who in the right mind would think you could learn how to do anything like that?
I don't know. That's insane.
So it is insane.
When you look at it in other contexts, like sewing or something like that, it's crazy. It's kind of like when we talked about the whole idea of being like a Christian plumber versus a Christian artist.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Like if you look at it in a different context, like if you want to learn how to play basketball or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to win a basketball game, and then you go to one practice, and then you spend the rest of the week just waiting, you're gonna get killed in the game.
Yeah. Well, we practiced.
Yeah, we practiced one time in our lesson.
And you know what's interesting? There's even been that terminology thrown out by a few of the students. They call our time together practice.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait a second. This isn't practice. This is to give you more information to go practice.
Right.
Like, you have to do this on your own. On the flip side, there are basketball teams who practice 2 hours every single night, and they're ready for those games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And talent is a whole nother conversation because it requires an incredible amount of practice if you have less talent. And I think it's all right to tell kids you're less talented in this than somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this comes more naturally to other people than it does to you. But if you want to do it, you can still do it. It's just going to take more work.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that just culturally we have shied away from because we don't want to tell a kid they might not be good at something.
Right, because everybody's special.
Everybody's
and they can
special.
do whatever they want.
Yeah, everybody's good at everything. Everybody gets an A+, and we can't leave anybody behind. And the honest truth is some of them are never going to play music. They just can't do it. I don't know if it didn't get ingrained at a birth age or if it wasn't taught to them throughout their childhood or I don't know.
Yeah.
But you can just see, and a lot of kids quit because they realize that. Like, oh my gosh, this was a cool idea, and I started and I realized that I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
Singing is probably the one that you could probably say is the most definitive. Like, you can either sing or you can't.
Yeah.
There are some people who kind of can, and maybe
Yeah.
lessons and coaching can get those people past it.
Yeah.
Like guitar, drums, like you could eventually teach somebody how to beat on those heads to rhythm, even if it's simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard to teach somebody who has no tone to
yeah.
sing on pitch. But anyway, I digress a little bit. There are kids who practice like crazy, and they're ready, and gosh, those kids love music.
Mm-hmm.
And they're experiencing new things in it.
Do you think that some of the kids don't practice because of they don't they weren't brought up with an appreciation for music, or something like that, or do you think it's
Well, yeah, maybe. You could always throw out the argument there that the technology and the ways that kids are stimulated these days by technology, so they can just go anytime their brain needs to get satisfaction from something, they can go look at YouTube,
right?
or whatever, right? Back then, when we didn't have that immediate relief. Like, we didn't have a place to go that was like, okay, I don't know what to do right now. I'm going to pick up a tablet. Like, you didn't do that. So you thought of other things that could, like, playing guitar was our tablet.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I couldn't think of anything else to do. It was snowing outside. It was cold, whatever. And I'm like, I'll go to my room and play my guitar. Like, I didn't have anything else. Like, there were, like, Game Boy was a thing when I was little. So, like, some of my friends had Game Boy, but I wasn't allowed to. So I didn't play video games at all. So I was forced to kind of think on my own and do things like that. So I think there is some of that you can blame on the maybe lack of interest in it, upbringing and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of it, though, I think a lot of it is just the music. In fact, let me use an example of a guy that was standing here looking at that guitar. There's an acoustic guitar for sale in front of our store. It's beautiful. He said, "Do you guys sell any electric guitars?" Mm-hmm. I said, "Well, we don't really. There's not a lot of people who are electric guitar students. In fact, we've got almost 70 active students at the music room. Mm-hmm. How many of them are electric guitar students?"
I can only think of one, but I don't know of you.
One.
Yeah.
One.
Yep.
Okay. He said, "Are you serious?" He was an older gentleman. He was in his 70s probably. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What do you think the reason for that is?" And I said, "Well, they don't have any Guitar Heroes. Like, I'm not talking about the video game. Like, anybody who just heard that, who's of this generation, would have went, Guitar Hero? I'm not talking about the stupid video game. They don't have anybody who they've seen play guitar and go, oh my gosh, I want to do that."
Yeah.
Like, I had the 80s.
Yeah.
And the early 90s, like, what I had the benefit, thank God, of growing up in a generation of kids who got to watch Nirvana.
Right.
Be Nirvana, not like looking back at YouTube videos. Like, we were watching the MTV Awards when Nirvana played the wrong song and Dave Grohl didn't play with drumsticks.
Yeah.
Like, they were angry at the world and playing real music and guitar. Foo Fighters. I mean, all these 90s grunge things, and then, of course, all the 80s guitar heroes, the Van Halens and the Led Zeppelins and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Who is that today?
Yeah, there's not really any.
They're out there.
Yeah, not mainstream.
But they're not what's popular, right? So Taylor Swift isn't inspiring a bunch of people to play the guitar.
Right.
That's why there's a show called The Voice, not Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
America's Got Talent is dominated with singers because that's what it takes to make it in the music industry. Is if you are pretty and have a horrible, tragic story, you're probably going to win The Voice.
Right.
Right. So there's some of that. Like, there's just no influence out there to get them to do it. So you got to kind of create it, I think.
What'd that old guy say when you said that?
Makes sense. Huh. That's what he said. Just like, yeah, I guess I get that. I'm like, well, like, who?
You know what's interesting about that, though, is if you look at the one student that we have, or that you have, that does play electric, because he has those heroes. He's like, I want to play Metallica.
Playing Pantera and Metallica. And he came into his lesson the other day. This is the thing I like about the kids who get it, and they just, our job is just to continue to foster them, like, and encourage them. I think a lot of kids quit because they're not encouraged, and it's hard to encourage you when you haven't practiced for 7 months and we're on the same scale. But I encourage you to do something else, maybe, because this is a waste of your time. But when a kid's really invested in it and loves it, and they're playing at home and come in and they're playing something that you didn't even talk about last week, you're like, okay,
yeah.
I just want to be involved in this kid's life and support him and give him whatever I can. Because that kid came in and started playing Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, and I was like, yep, let's play it.
Yeah.
I know we were working on that Pantera song or whatever we're doing, but if you want to nail down Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, that's a great guitar song.
Yeah.
I want to know how to play it. That's
the best when kids come in and you can tell they're working on their own, and they bring things into the lesson rather than just what you gave them last week. That's cool.
Yep, I had a kid come in this week, and it was Christmas break, so I hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 weeks. And his mom said he learned 7 songs over Christmas. I'm like, what?
Oh,
What do you mean learn 7 songs? He said, he took his sister's piano book and learned them.
nice.
Good. Like, yeah, that's it.
That's awesome.
That's it. And I asked him to play a couple, and he remembered them and played them for me. And I'm like, it's training his ear. Like, that's like when you got somebody who gets it, and your job is to stay out of the way and just keep pushing them along, right?
That's awesome.
And be encouraging. So they practice because they love it. It's an interesting thing. But, like, I was going to ask you, Caleb's a really good drummer. If you guys have never heard him drum, he's a really good musician in general, but really good at the drums and singing. Like, what is practice? Did you do lessons?
I never did any. Well, nope. I never did any lessons.
Yeah, I mean, formally, like, you didn't go to some
No.
dude for, like, you can't say thanks to so and so I can play drums, right? I didn't
Never.
either. So how'd you learn how to play them?
Well, let's see. I remember the first time I ever. Well, okay. So we got our drum set, bought it with my 4-H lamb money.
Oh yeah, sold a goat,
Yeah.
sold
And-
knothead, got a drum set.
So my dad is a good musician too. But
Jeff.
he sat down and he's like, "This is the only drum beat I know," and he played it for me.
Nice.
And so he kind of, from that, I was like watching what he was doing. I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I just tried to mimic what he was doing, and then I did that, and then pretty soon, we didn't even have YouTube back then, so. So I just I collected CDs, and I would just literally I had this karaoke machine, and I would sit it next to my drum set, and then I would put on headphones, and then I would listen literally from the front to the back of an album, and I would just mimic what they're doing. So I knew what I was hearing. I could hear the hi-hat, I could hear the bass, and I could hear the drum or the snare, and the crash and all the toms and stuff. So I would literally play it over and over and over again until I sounded like that. And then I would play from the front of the album to the back. With different albums all the time. You couldn't get me to stop.
So at home, in your room,
Yeah.
headphones plugged into a karaoke machine,
Yep.
playing CDs that you collected front to back.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like practice.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, when you love something, you don't think about it like practice. It's not
Right.
like work. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's joyful. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, man, this is the best thing ever.
I want to go do this thing. Like, as I was thinking about, like, rehearsal, it drives us nuts, and any musicians it would drive nuts, but it's the hardest thing in the world when you see kids who want to play music not practice, because you're like, what? My gosh, when I was my age, first of all, there wasn't a music room. Second of all, there wasn't an organization at all that taught music.
Yeah.
And so you had to learn it from whoever you learned it from. And if your town had somebody who would teach it, you lucked out. And if not, you had to plug CDs into a karaoke machine and learn it on your own. And that's just how it went.
Yeah.
So we lucked out. I didn't have a guitar teacher either. I had a lady teach me. She taught me a song called High Enough by the Damn Yankees. It was great. She taught it to me. It was an 80s ballad. Oh, fantastic. And I learned it, and I'm like, well, that wasn't that hard. I could teach myself music. Mom, quit paying for guitar lessons. I could teach myself.
Oh, yeah.
And so my dad taught me a little bit more, and then we just, whatever. And then you just kind of do that. Like, I did that with CDs. I would put on headphones, and I bought an effects pedal so that I could make my guitar grungy.
Oh, yeah.
And I would put on Metallica's Black Album when it was cool to learn Metallica's Black Album before it got cliche.
Yeah.
And I would put it on start to front and play every song, except for song 2 and song 10, which are in different tunings. And I know that
Oh, yeah.
because I had to have 3 guitars. Because when I got
So
to
you could
song
switch?
2, it was a whole step down. Sad but True was a whole step down. And then song 10, forget the name of it, is a half step down. So I had 3 guitars.
So you just switch real quick and keep
I'd switch
playing?
real quick and keep playing.
That's awesome.
Right? That's like, because we loved it and that's what we did. And I don't, do kids love anything that much? Other than video games, maybe?
I don't see the kids that I teach, I don't see them being passionate about one thing. I don't see that. I think that they're passionless, to be honest with you. The thing with like YouTube and stuff is you're watching other people's passions and what they like. So
And they're capitalizing on it.
yeah,
Capitalizing on you, wishing you were doing what they were doing.
yeah, it's a sad reality.
Yeah, kids watching Dude Perfect and then trying to flip water bottles in their living room, going, I'm going to be a YouTuber someday.
Good luck, buddy.
think we should have a survey go out at our schools, and that should be one of the responses. What do you want to be when you grow up? And YouTuber should be one, and everybody who checks that box should be brought into a gym and given a motivational talk.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
By Matt Foley.
By Matt Foley. And if you don't know what that means, you're probably living in a van down by the river somewhere. Anyway.
Nice. Well, hey, I actually have a lesson I gotta get to, so let's end this.
Oh, that's right.
Let's go. We got one more little thing I want to talk about.
Done.
This is crazy. This is called Birthday Burger. A Utah. Why did I call it birth? Oh, duh. Never mind. Utah man's McDonald's burger turns 20. Still looks brand new.
Nice.
So this guy in Utah bought a hamburger with the purpose of trying to show how things deteriorate over time.
Mm-hmm.
His name's David Whipple. He bought it on July 7th, 1999 in Logan, Utah. He says that he was taking it around, showing people, trying to show people how things break down. The burger ended up being forgotten in a coat pocket for several years, which I'm like, how do you forget that in your coat?
I get it. I've lost a hamburger before.
Anyways, he said it ended up with going viral when he rediscovered it back in 2013. That's not a few years. That's that's over a decade.
There's that cheeseburger. I found that something good.
Anyways, so he said the burger was placed in a Big Mac tin and remained there for 6 years before he took it out this week. And the burger still has the same appearance as it did when he bought it. And he said it gives off the smell of cardboard.
Oh my gosh.
So think about that next time you go through the old Mickey D's
Think
drive-through.
about that sitting in your colon.
Can't be good for
That
me.
can't be good for you.
I haven't eaten at McDonald's in probably 5 years.
I got to tell you something.
You ate there yesterday?
No, I can't. I don't eat there right now, or I haven't eaten there in a long time. But if I'm hungry, and I'm in a pinch, those McDonald's cheeseburgers.
I agree. The McDouble is a gift.
We're talking like 2 bites on one of them cheeseburgers.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm eating them like popcorn. The cholesterol and things that are going on, my body is probably angry. But you know what? You only live once. If I get hit by a semi, I'll be glad I ate that cheeseburger. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Well, go out and get you some, or don't, because you just heard what we said.
Hey, David Whipple, I'd like to see you take a bite of it. That's all I want to say.
Whipple, whip it
good. Hey, thanks for listening to the Music Room's podcast, The Mixdown. We will see you later.
Whip it good.